Welcome to The Explainer, where we break down big ideas. So today, we're going to dig into something pretty wild. Why an ancient philosophy is suddenly making a huge comeback in one of the most modern, high-stakes environments you can possibly imagine. So where does this all come from? Well, believe it or not, it starts right here at the Naval Postgraduate School. A thesis recently came out of there that makes this really compelling case that ancient Stoicism, the stuff from 2,000 years ago, might be the best way to prepare future military leaders for the crazy ethical challenges they're going to face. And here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll look at the problem modern leaders are up against. Then, we're going to unpack this idea of a Stoic operating system as the solution. After that, we'll see how it's different from something you've probably heard of, mindfulness. And finally, we'll see how all this ancient wisdom can actually apply to all of our lives. All right, first up, let's talk about the problem. Why would leaders even need a new ethical toolkit in the first place? What's going wrong with the old one? Okay, so most of the time, when we learn about ethics, whether you're in the military or working at a big company, it's all about rules. You've got systems like consequentialism, which basically says do whatever has the best results, and deontology, which is all about follow these moral rules, no matter what. But what happens when you're in a situation where the rules are blurry, those gray areas? That's when these systems can really start to fall apart. And this quote from that thesis just nails it. A rule book can't cover every possible scenario you're going to face in the real world. So when the rules run out, what are you left with? That is exactly where character-based ethics comes in. It shifts the question from what should I do to what kind of person should I be? And that brings us right to Stoicism. I want you to think of it less like another boring rule book and more like an operating system for your character. It's something you install in your mind that helps you build that virtuous identity from the inside out. The entire system, and I mean all of it, is built on this one incredibly powerful idea, the dichotomy of control. It's all about learning to draw a very clear line in the sand between the things you can control and, well, everything else. Everything flows from this. So what does that actually mean for you? The Stoics were super clear about this. They said we should pour all of our energy into our internals, our thoughts, our choices, our reactions. That's it. Everything else, your body, your money, even what other people think of you, that's all external. It's ultimately outside of your complete control. The goal isn't to ignore that stuff, but to accept it as it comes without letting it control you. Okay, now this quote, I know it sounds really harsh, even a little cold. But Epictetus isn't telling us to be heartless. Not at all. This is about a mental practice. It's about preparing yourself and accepting the reality of the world, even the most painful parts, so that if the worst happens, it doesn't completely shatter you. It's about building resilience. So if you're focusing only on your internal world, how do you know you're making the right calls? Well, the Stoics gave us these 4 cardinal virtues to act as an internal compass. This is your guide for navigating literally any situation, helping you make wise judgments, act with courage, want the right things, and treat people fairly. Now, I know what some of you are probably thinking. Hey, this sounds a whole lot like mindfulness. And you know what? That's a great question, because they're related, but there's a really important difference. So let's get into it. We all hear about mindfulness constantly, right? It's everywhere. And its modern popularity has its roots way back in the ancient Buddhist practice of Sati, which basically means mindfulness or remembrance. Okay, so even though they sound similar, here's the key difference. Think of Buddhist Sati or mindfulness as being a calm observer of your inner world. You're just watching your thoughts and feelings come and go. Stoic Prosoche, on the other hand, is way more active. It's like being a security guard at the front door of your mind, constantly and vigilantly checking your thoughts and actions against your principles, like the dichotomy of control, in real time. It's less about observing and way more about judging and directing. So let's bring this all home. What's the big takeaway here? How do we take these ancient tools and actually use them to get through our modern, chaotic lives? So that military thesis we talked about at the beginning, it actually boils all this philosophy down into some really practical principles for leaders. It all starts with judgment, that core skill of telling the difference between what you can control and what you can't. And from there, it builds out to things like presence, humble confidence, and even kindness, creating this really solid framework for being a resilient and ethical leader. But here's the thing. This is not just for military leaders on some literal battlefield. It's a guide for any of us facing the challenges of everyday life, at the office, at home, you name it. The whole point is to build what the Stoics called an inner citadel, a fortress inside you that can't be touched by all the chaos happening on the outside. And really, it all comes down to this. Stoicism gives us a path to being more resilient and, honestly, more at peace. Not by trying to change the world around us, but by changing our relationship to it. It's about fundamentally shifting what we focus on and what we expect from life. So the final thought I want to leave you with is this. We live in a world that is just filled with things we can't control, right? From huge global events all the way down to our daily frustrations. And maybe, just maybe, the most powerful tool we have is the one the Stoics were talking about 2,000 years ago. The choice to build a character that is virtuous and unshakable.